Hi everybody, welcome to this makeup class. For this very first video, I wanted to bring you an option for a classical FatChanceBellyDance style makeup look. I really hope you enjoy it and find it helpful. So let's start, as we all know, with color palette and details from everything we know from volume to DVD from FatChanceBellyDance. So for eyes, let's stay with a very warm and earthy tone palette. So white and beige to highlight, gold as a lid color, mid brown as a transition shade, deep brown as an all over the lid shade, and of course black to deepen and to define everything in your eyes. Now for the cheeks, I would always suggest you to use bright and intense blushes, especially for performances. Try to stay with corals, warm pinks, and peaches for this particular look so that we keep the whole warm theme cohesively. And of course, for lips, matte red would be the option. You can use the shade of red that you would prefer. In regards of the details, remember that black eyeliner is the best way to define your eyes. Intense brows are needed when you want to express any emotion on stage. And what's really the point of wearing eyelashes if you don't use them long, big, and thick? Otherwise, they're not going to show, and you're really going to waste a little bit of that wow factor. So let's give it this a go. So as an eyeshadow base, I'm gonna use gel eyeliner in brown, and I will apply it with a flat brush. That type of brush, the flat bristle brush, is specifically designed for cream products. So every time you use a cream, that's the best way to apply it. So warm it up a little bit with the brush to make it more liquidy, and then apply a thick layer to your mobile lid. Now, this is an important step. You should use a blending brush like the one I just showed you to blend that rough edge that we left. This is going to make your life easier throughout the process of the shadow work. Otherwise, it's going to be too hard to blend in the end. So if you smooth the edges out right at the beginning, trust me, it's gonna make everything better. And again, we repeat this step for the other side. We make sure we cover our entire mobile lid with a thick layer of this base, of this eyeliner that we are using as a sort of primer, eye primer. And then we even it out with our fingertips, and of course we smooth out the edges with the blending brush. Now there are two important things for this particular step. So one of it is that you cover a little bit above of your natural crease, because we are going to create a fake new crease to make your eyes look bigger. And the other important thing is that you make sure you actually cover your full eye area. So many people are a little bit shy when they're applying their makeup and their eyeshadow, and they tend to make their eyes look smaller because they don't go as further as your actual natural eye go. So if you notice right there, I'm bringing the shadow, see, as an extension of my lower lash line. So always keep that in mind, and don't be afraid to apply your products. You can always clean them up if you feel like you went too far or it's too much. So remember, we're doing our eyes first for that reason. Now after we're done, we are going to move on to setting that cream base that we applied. So we're going to use a shadow to do so, and we are going to use a shadow brush to apply that eyeshadow. Remember, shadow brushes are very fluffy, of bristles, so you're going to saturate it very well with your dry powder product, and we're going to apply it in patting motions first to set that creamy base that we applied. Now I will suggest you to use this eyeshadow shade for the outer half of your mobile lid. We're gonna use a different shade for the inner half, so only use it for the second half of your lid, for the second half, for the outer half, or for the outer corner of your lid. Now for the inner portion of our lid, we're going to use a golden eyeshadow. And again, we're going to take a shadow brush, which is always fluffy, to apply it with. The inner portion of your lid also considers your tear duct area, which is that one right there. You're not going to cover that with gold because that is a highlighting point, and we're going to cover that with a different shade, highlighting shade. So for the moment, just cover the first half of your mobile lid with the same technique. You're gonna saturate your brush with the product. You're gonna apply it with patting motions first, and then you can swipe your brush out. Now the secret with this type of shimmery, metallic, or foiled eyeshadows is when you activate those very shiny particles within the product. So one of the techniques to do it would be, first you apply your product with patting motions, saturate the area with it, and then you can move your brush by making these swiping motions or windshield wiping motions. So that's a good way to activate those shimmery particles and make those products pop a little bit more. Now let's start working on our crease. So I'm going to show you these blending brushes. Remember, like I said, they are rounder in shape, and they have different densities of bristles. Of course, they have different sizes as well. They can help you cover more area or less area. The denser the brush, the most intensity of color you will achieve, and the fluffier the brush, the less intensity of color you will achieve. So it's all gonna depend on what blending job you want to do. So let's start by working on our transition. For transition, I'm gonna use a warmer brown. This is to give it a little bit more life to the look, because in my particular opinion, brown can wash you out a little bit. So I always like to use a warmer shade of brown, or maybe like a different type of color to give it a little bit more light and life to the look. So when we use this type of brushes, these rounder brushes, they practically do the job for you. So you don't have to spend that much time on blending that product. But if you want to perfect your technique, you can also use it in circular motions to just help blend a little bit more. Now we are going to intensify our crease with that deep brown shade, and we're going to use that to create our fake crease. So see, I am just guiding myself with the outer corner of my eye, and then I'm bringing it towards the inner portion of my eye and placing it very close to my brow hairline also. This will actually make a fake illusion of having a bigger, wider eye, as you can see right there. Now let's go for the other eye, and I'm gonna leave you to see in more detail of all my technique and the way I applied the products. So what do you think? Is this easy to follow along? You can always leave any comment or question in the comment section, and I will make sure to reply it. Now, remember about the tear duct area. We are going to use a highlighting shade, a beigey or white shade depending on your skin color, to cover that area, and we will bring it a little bit towards the gold to help illuminate and highlight also that area and blend it together with the gold. Now you may find that this step is not enough, or maybe it's not making the product pop enough, so you're gonna have to activate again the shimmery particles. And another way to do it, another technique to do it, is by wetting that eyeshadow, and you can use a setting spray like I used right there. You can also use distilled water. for the eyeliner work, the very dreaded eyeliner work. Now I suggest you to use gel eyeliner because it's very easy to work with, and you can use it with some eyeliner brushes like the one I'm just showing, which is a very angled one, or just a regular liner brush. In this particular case, this is very thick and big, but you can also use that one, which is very thin and small. Again, take your time to warm up the product with your brush. Make sure you saturate it very well with the product, and then of course remove the excess and try to flatten the bristles, and start applying the liner from the middle or from the center out, because it is the area with the biggest intensity, with the most with the thickest line, and then start working towards the inner corner. Now I can totally understand that it can be quite scary to use such a big brush for the inner corner, for the inner portion of your eye, so don't worry, you can totally change to the detail brush and finish your line with it. So take your time and make sure you fully cover that upper lash line, especially if you're gonna apply false eyelashes later, because that way it'll make it look a little bit more cohesive, and it's gonna of course bring you more definition to your eye. Now wing it out to where you feel most comfortable with your wing to be. I always go above my crease, beyond the crease, but it's a matter of preference, and don't worry about making your wing too perfect. You definitely don't need to do this, because the technique I'm going to show you in just a moment is a smoky technique. So we're going to smoke out that line by smudging it. We're going to use a brush of sort, or this one, this very flat one. So you can use either or, the angled one like I'm using there, or the flat one. And you're gonna first set your cream product, your gel eyeliner, with a black eyeshadow. Set it very well, and after you do so, then you can make that swiping motion with the brush to make it smoky and to help it smudge. Now if you notice in the outer edge of the liner, I'm gonna take that brush in the same direction, and I'm gonna swipe towards the center. That way I'm gonna smoke the liner, and I'm gonna create a little bit of a cat eye feel to the look, and also I'm gonna just intensify the outer corner of my eye. Something to take into consideration is that the longer you draw that line, the bigger your eye is going to look. You're gonna fake like a big eye shape, and the shorter, of course, the smaller your eye is going to look. So look at the difference from one eye to the other, and then you will finish the look with a super fluffy brush, a super fluffy blending brush, and you're gonna take a tiny bit of black eyeshadow to smoke it out. And you can give it the final touch by smudging and smoking that outer corner. So that's gonna tidy up the look, and it's gonna make that smudge liner look more cohesive. This also helps you define and deepen your eyes. So you can totally choose from keeping it the way it is and just keeping the deep eyeshadow work towards the corner of the eye, the outer corner, or you can definitely then choose to deepen a little bit the rest of the crease towards the inner corner. You can see the difference right there. Try to apply very minimum pressure as you go towards the inner portion, otherwise it's gonna look too heavy and you're gonna end up not liking what you just did. So be very careful with the pressure you apply. Like the most pressure, the biggest payoff of color you get, and the least pressure, the less payoff of color you get. And then remember, of course, to retouch that warm transition shade. Now I'm gonna leave you to observe the other side, the other eye. And again, if you have any comments or questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section. And as a mental exercise as we go in, try to remember what was the step that was coming. Can you remember what was the next step after we applied our gel eyeliner? If your answer was setting, then you were correct. Remember, first we set, then we smudge and smoke everything out. What about now? Who can tell me what comes next? So So good job if you remembered that we were supposed to blend even more and deepen our outer corner. Now I have a tip for you. If you want to leave it as is, you are of course welcome to do so. If you want to give it a little bit of pop and more dimension to your look, you can use a glittery or maybe a foiled golden eyeshadow to use it on top of your gold eyeshadow work that you did before. The best way to apply this type of eyeshadows is definitely with your just bare fingertip. Make sure it's clean before you apply it, and remember that this type of products are just like pressed pigments or pressed glitters, so they're very oily, so apply it in a very thin layer. If you apply it in excess, most likely it'll crease and it's gonna fall out to your cheeks. If you are choosing to do this step, I welcome you to retouch your eyeliner, because glitter is very like invasive and it ends up always in your eyeliner, and it takes away the definition you gave already to your eyes. Now before you apply any false lashes, make sure you give your natural lash a good coat of black mascara. This way you will help also take away any fallout that was caught up between your eyelashes. Remember, it's not very nice to take a picture and find out that your natural lashes were actually dusty and all dirty, and then on top of it you applied your false lashes. So make sure you give a very good coat of mascara. Let's apply foundation before we finish up the eyes. I'm gonna use a super full coverage one and my bare fingers to blend it at first. So when we use this type of foundations, which is so thick in consistency and it's so full coverage, I find that the best way to blend it is with your hands, with your bare fingers. Of course, make sure you have clean hands because they might have got stained with black when you were doing your eyes. So remember to always wash them before you apply your foundation. But then it's a perfect way to blend it seamlessly into your skin. It reaches every fine line and it sinks into the skin beautifully. So never underestimate the power of your hands. Make sure you fully cover the whole area, and then we're gonna move to blend it with a beauty sponge instead of your fingers. You can totally leave it just with the fingers, but I find that using a beauty sponge, a damp beauty sponge, helps you achieve like a more natural look. The way to use this type of tool is by bouncing it to your skin, and then moving it. Remember, every time we blend creams or liquid products, we go from the center out. So start blending from the center out. Now, something worth mentioning is that you don't actually need a concealer for this look if you use this type of foundation. When you use this super full coverage foundation, really a concealer is kind of pointless. And also the shadow work we're gonna do on the lower lid, as you are about to see, is very intense, so you don't actually need to cover that much, or maybe color correct or anything. So you can use a little bit of the foundation, of the same foundation, and just retouch your under eye area to just make it an even canvas for what's about to come. But don't worry about concealer at all for this type of look. This technique also helps you with cleaning a little bit or perfecting your outer edge, as you could see right there, so you can make it as intense as you want. If you're a performer, it's very important to set your foundation, as we have done before. Every time we apply a cream product, we set it with a powder dry product on top of it. So it is super important. Please don't miss this step. I know it can be a little bit scary for some people, like they might think they're gonna look too cakey, but there are ways to make your face have a little bit more life, and I'm gonna show you some other techniques you can use to make your skin look a little bit more natural again. So don't worry about this. I recommend you using this type of puff. You just grab product, do tapping motions, and then you can of course swipe the product, but first you set. This is also like the best technique to achieve super long lasting power. Now, after we look like Casper, it's time for applying your false eyelashes. So an easy way to do this is by taking your eyelash glue, Apply a thin layer to the band of your eyelash and let it dry a little bit. Let it become tacky. Then I suggest you to look down to a mirror. That way you stretch your eye area and you give a little less chance for mistakes. So the way to apply it is rest it in the natural eyelash and then fix the center, the middle of the eyelash, and then adjust the outer corner and then go for the inner corner. So this is the best way for me to do it. It's the easiest way for me to do it. I place it, I rest it in my natural lash, fix the center, and then adjust first outer edge and then inner edge. Now with your tweezers you can do this kind of squeezing motion. You can grab both your natural eyelash and your fake eyelash and stick them together. This is optional. I know many people might feel a little uncomfortable with it at first. This is something that you do once you have practice, so don't feel that you need to do this step at all. You can actually squeeze them together with your fingers if you would like. So look at the difference already. What do you think? See what I meant when I said it's better when we use long, big and thick eyelashes. They actually give you so much definition and it's like you lined your eyes. So it's always a super wow factor, and in my opinion it's something that shouldn't be neglected at all because they can tidy up the look, make it look more beautiful, and it gives you a more professional finish. Now let's talk about the other star of the show, your eyebrows. Yes, you cannot forget about them at all. Now I like to use eyebrow shadow and that type of brush. I don't know if you noticed that the bristles were very rigid, so they actually act like a comb. So the first step you're gonna take is you're gonna take your dry product, your dry powder for eyebrows, and apply it to the first third of your eyebrow, right towards the center of your face. So we always have this rebel brow that gives us problems. So in my case is this left one. You're gonna take a little bit more time with it, but just don't worry, give it love. It deserves it as well, and it's gonna be worth it. So be patient with it and apply the same technique. So a dry product on the first third, you're gonna blend it towards the towards the middle, and in my particular case, according to my morphology, towards my angle. But then we are gonna finish it up differently. So just make sure you give a nice shade of the product. And then we are gonna take distilled water to wet our brush, and then take the shadow product and apply it from the second third to the tail, to the last third of your eyebrow. And this way we create a little bit of an ombre effect. The eyebrow is gonna have a little bit more of a natural finish to it with this type of technique, and it's still gonna be intense, and it's still gonna be an important feature of your face. Remember that eyebrows are super important because they help you project emotions on stage. Now, as you can see, I was extending the tail long enough to cover with the eyeshadow work. So keep that in mind. Don't leave it super short. Extend it if you need to. And then go and give love to your very rebel brow and finish it up the same way you did with the other one. Now we can take a little bit of concealer, primer, or a bit of foundation with a flat brush, and then use it to clean your brow bone area. I don't like to carve out my eyebrow because I don't like the finish of it. It's too fake. So whenever I clean my brow bone area, I try to do it very carefully and just trying to keeping it as natural as I can. So just clean what's needed, and this way you're gonna also apply a base for your brow bone highlight, which is super important as well. And now we're gonna use the highlight shade, and we are gonna set that little base that we applied to our brow bone, and that way we also use it as a brow bone highlight. So after you apply your highlight shade, remember to go back to your warm transition shade and retouch like I'm doing right there. It is always important to retouch your liner after your eyelash glue dried, because even though it dries clear, it is still visible, so you want to make sure you just give it this final touch. Now to finish up the eyes, we're gonna go for the lower lid. We are first gonna cover our lower waterline and lower lash line with a black eyeliner, with a black eyeliner pencil, and then make sure you cover in between your eyelashes, and you are covering also the lower lash line. It's not only the water line, it's in between the eyebrows and the lower lash line, because we're gonna smudge it out and make it smoky to finish up the look. So take your time to cover it very well, and to make it super intense. Now we will apply the same smudging technique. We're gonna take that smudging brush, a little bit of black eyeshadow, and we are gonna set first that eyeliner that we applied on the lower lash line, and then we're gonna smoke it out. We're gonna smudge it. You can bring it as low as you like and as you feel comfortable with. Many people are very cautious with their lower lash line, with their actual lower lid, but we do have space, and it's a good way to line all your eye with black and don't make it look that small, or don't close it down that much. So it actually, when you lower your lower lash line, you create again that fake illusion that your eye is bigger and your lash line is lower than it actually is. So this is a way to make your eyes look bigger and keep them smoky, and apply a lot of black eyeliner. Now we are gonna blend, applying the same transitions we applied on the upper lid area. So we're gonna go with a blending brush. In this case, this is denser, so it's gonna pack a little bit more color and pigment. So I'm gonna take the deep brown shade to help me blend that black a little bit more seamlessly, making it look a little bit more put together. We're not just applying eyeshadow like crazy, we are doing it with fundamentals. Now you can use the same primer technique for the inner corner and tear duct area. We apply a little bit of a creamy product and then apply on top of it the shadows, so that way they're gonna pop even more. And then I'm gonna go into the warm brown shade with a fluffier brush. That way I finish up the blending work for the lower lash line, for the actual lower lid, and I do so by applying the very last transition shade. If you notice any fallout, you can always take a fan brush and just swipe everything off. One of the easiest way to finish up the look is by applying a good coat of mascara to your lower lashes. We can now move forward to the face, so we're gonna start by contouring with a regular just contour powder, and you can definitely use this type of brush. It is very useful because, like I said, the bristles are dense, so they're gonna help you pack a lot of pigment. And I'm gonna use like very regular standard contours. So one is the cheekbone area. You can give it a little bit of a variation to it. In my case, I define my cheek entirely with a little bit of shadow that's left in the brush. You can of course choose not to do so. The other standard contour area would be the jawline. This one is very useful for eyes, double chin folks. So if you don't feel like you need to, you can definitely skip it. You can maybe apply a little bronzer only, and it'll be more than enough. So that's also an option. Then the other area of contouring would be the forehead. You just apply a little bit of shadow along your hairline, and then of course the nose. Now we're gonna repeat everything on the other side, and then I'm gonna come back when I'm finishing my nose. Okay, so we are finishing the nose. Actually, I'm using the same brush, but you can of course change it if you feel like this one is too big and difficult to handle. You can definitely change it to a more detailed one, a smaller one. And as you can see, I'm rounding my tip. You don't really need to do it if you don't have that nose shape. So like I said, this is because it works for me. Then after we finish with our contour, we're gonna go with bronzer. Bronzer is a very useful step, not only because it brings color back to your skin and warmth to your complexion, but because it helps you transition and blend that contour work we just did. So as we have been doing all along the video, we are creating a transition with the bronzer. Now, a very useful technique for blush would be applying a cream blush as a base for your powder blush. You can do this by using FatChanceBellyDance brush, and again, remember we already applied powders and everything is set. So if you don't want to move your foundation, you have to use this deepening motion, these patting motions with your brush. That way you don't move things underneath. So you're just applying a layer, a thin layer of cream blush. We do the same thing on the other side. And then we're gonna apply on top of it our powder blushes. This is gonna give us lasting power and more intensity. And also, if we are using texturized blushes, it's gonna make the texture pop. Now you're gonna see about the texture with this type of blushes because they're shimmery, and they will be shimmery by the end of the application. So I'm gonna use two different shades of blushes. The darkest one goes towards the end, okay, closer to the hairline, and then the brighter one, lighter one, goes in the apples of the cheek, more towards the center of your face. This way we create dimension again to our cheeks, our cheekbones. Now you can see right there how the texture of the product pops with this technique, and you are welcome to leave it this way if you want, but there is a way to give more dimension to your face, to your actual cheekbones, and make them pop and give you a whole different look to your whole face. So we're gonna use highlights, and again we're gonna apply in the same exact technique, of course at a more detailed scale. We're gonna use smaller brushes and a little bit of a smaller area. So we're gonna use that shade right there. In this case, this is a cream highlight shade, and I'm gonna apply it at the very top of my cheekbone area with the same stippling motion to not move anything that's underneath the highlight in this case. So apply it very lightly with a very thin layer, and then once you're happy with it, you're gonna go with a fluffy brush. That way you don't pack that much color, right? And you're gonna take those shades, the one of your preference. You can even mix them together if you want. And those shades are powder. That way you set that cream highlight that we applied before, and we make the dry highlight pop even more. You can see the difference right there. This is with highlight and the other side without a highlight. So it's up to you really which one you're gonna use. I really love this technique with well, pretty much with everything, as you can see. But yes, it gives a different finish to the whole face. It gives you a lot of dimension. It gives you a super ethereal look, and it is super beautiful in my opinion. If you're into this dewy look, you are welcome to give a highlight to your cupid's bow, your chin, your nose, the tip of the nose and the bridge, and also the forehead. And finally, we can go for the lips. I want to use a liquid lipstick, but first I'm gonna line my lips. I highly encourage you to line your lips whenever you're performing or doing this type of makeup looks, because it's a very easy way to correct your shape. So in my case, I have to overline my lips, and I also have to extend my mouth a little bit at the corners, because I have an actual small mouth. It's not just my lips, it's the actual mouth. It is a bit small, so I have to correct it with the shape. So I extend it in the corners and I overline my lips with the lip liner. If you fill in your lips a little bit with a lip liner, it would be a very effective way to make your lip product last longer. So you can consider it if you want, even though we're going to use liquid lipstick. I am applying a very warm shade of red because, like I mentioned, I have a small mouth and I don't want to make it look smaller for this particular case. And I also wanted to keep that warm theme that we've been keeping throughout the look and the video, right? So the only thing I did was applying a little bit of a darker shade of red towards the outer corners of my lips. That way I just add dimension to them without having to use a gloss or a texturized product for the lip. And this is the final look, my darlings. I really hope you liked it, you enjoyed it, and also you learned from it. Thank you so much for joining me and my class. I really hope to have you back for the next ones. Remember to comment if you have any concerns. Please take care. Bye bye everybody. Thank you.